And there it is. Good morning, you beautiful party people, as my good friend Josh would say. It's Friday morning. I've got some time before work. So what I wanted to do a stream, and this actually I think is going to be more interesting for folk who watch the recording, just to kind of show you all what's involved with flying in virtual reality like I do with Flight Simulator 2020. Now, as usual, this is not the only way to do things, and I'm sure I'll figure things out as I go along, but I'm a computer nerd for a living, and I figured that some of you might be intrigued with what the actual software and the back end stuff looks like before we even get into the air. So I'm just gonna kind of walk everybody through what it looks like when I go into the flight simulator. And maybe we'll just do a quick fake flight so that we can say there was flying. I don't know. That depends on how things go. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I've got a stream set up where you'll be able to see my desktop. And right here, we got a little inception going on because I fired up OBS, and you can see that in the window there we're it's showing OBS inside of OBS inside OBS. This is the software that makes the magic happen for the Twitch stream. So I'm just going to go ahead and minimize that right now because, quite frankly, you don't need to be seeing that. And now this is my Windows desktop, the family when we were on a cruise in 2019. All right. So what's involved in actually doing a virtual flight? Well, so the simulator itself, I'm going to actually, it takes a little bit to load, so I'm going to kick that off. And what I do is I just start Microsoft Flight Simulator in regular old full screen window mode. Right? That's going to launch. Again, it'll take a little bit. And by the time I'm done yibber yabbering, it should be easily on the main menu. One thing that I do, it needs Xbox networking to do the to do the rolling download of the scenery, and it uses this little tool called Pterado, which is how can I explain this? It essentially allows an IP version 4 system to communicate on an IP version 6 network. And even if you have IPv6 enabled, you still seem to need the stupid thing. And for some reason on my system, when I don't have the Xbox networking control panel up and I check the status of Pterado at a command line, it's not running. So I kind of always just need to have the Xbox networking control panel up to make sure Pterado is going. So just to sanity check it, we'll hit check again to make sure that it's running. Okay. Yeah, and you thought the plane checklist was hard. So that shows that Pterado's active. Ah, yes, coffee for the win. Hey, Bri. And so we'll just minimize that control panel. That just runs in the background. Think of it, if you're an old DOS programmer, think of it as a TSR. All right, so we'll minimize the flight sim while it's loading. We'll minimize Steam. So what I usually do is I figure out what the heck am I going to do. So we'll fire up a web browser. Hopefully I wasn't looking at anything too embarrassing when I last had Brave up. Facebook. That actually is embarrassing, but that's all right. I use a site called SkyVector for my charts. And what I'll do is if I'm gonna go from airport to airport, I will fire up SkyVector and go to the airport, find the airports in question. And usually I'm more concerned about the airport I'm flying into because I'm going to need the runways for landing and whatnot. But right now we're at Cecil. So I will bring up Cecil's airport information. And this is something this is not Flight Simulator. This is like for real world pilots, right? But because Flight Simulator 2020 tries to pull in real airport data and stuff, this is super useful. So this is where the aircraft is parked now. Talks about the runways, talks We have the various channels needed for communication. And then Cecil supports instrument landing, which is something that I've actually tried in the simulator and it's pretty cool. But instrument landing is essentially you can come in and the autopilot can bring the aircraft down almost to the surface of the runway. It uses a directional beacon, and it's really pretty freaking cool. It feels almost like cheating, but this is what real pilots use when they don't have a good. It's something that's used in the real world all the time. If you're flying on an airliner, the pilot's not really bringing the plane in by hand. They're using instrument landing pretty much all the way until they're just a little bit off the runway. I have some real-world friends who are pilots. I'm sure they could give us some real insight. But what I think we're going to do is, for the purpose of today's demo, we're gonna leave the airport diagram up, because this has the runways and the taxiways and stuff on it. And that's important because when I'm in the simulator, I can't see what's on my computer desktop because I'm wearing this thing over my head. And so everything that I want to be able to see inside of the simulator needs to be a window on the computer. All right, so we're just going to toss this over here for now. I have a little notepad called Flying Notes. This is because I'm still learning how to deal with air traffic control. I only need this when I plan on attaching to VATSIM. Now VATSIM, again, because this is a show you all about stuff, is a network. They call themselves the International Online Flying Network, and they are a ton of fun. This is essentially a bunch of flight simulator pilots and air traffic control folk. They have a full training regimen if you want to become an air traffic controller in the network, and the goal here is to basically simulate around the entire world the aviation experience with all the air traffic control and stuff. And it's, if you're thinking, wow, these people are a bunch of friggin' nerds, well, you're right. Turns out that aviation and computers, there's a lot of overlap in nerdiness and what's cool about it. And one of the tools I like to use is the SimAware VATSIM tracker. This shows us the current situation, who's online, logged into VATSIM, where their aircraft are, and it also shows the manned ATC areas. So we're down in Florida now. Let's click down to Florida. Now we can see there's aircraft in the air, and then this little ATC overlay shows the different regions. Now, because these are gray, this tells me that no one in Florida is awake and doing air traffic control right now, because remember, this is a hobby. They're pretend air traffic controllers. They're not actually being paid to do this. When that is the situation, in VATSIM we use Unicom. It's a little more complicated in the real world. There's a couple of different frequencies that are the equivalent of channel 19, if you ever did CB, breaker 19. But Unicom is the general purpose communication frequency. And in that situation, all the pilots essentially become their own air traffic control and use Unicom to announce intentions. Remember, the whole idea of air traffic control, well, there's a few purposes to ATC, but one of the most important is to make sure that plane A and plane B do not become one. Keep aircraft separated. Obviously, ATC is super helpful to try and help you get to where you're going. Controllers can talk you in and give you vectors to runways and whatnot. But one of the real important things is to make sure that aircraft don't slam into each other and then people die. So Unicom is a way for pilots to communicate when there's no air traffic control over an area. And that's actually used in the real world when someone says an airport's non-controlled. It's on the pilot to use their equivalent of Unicom. I think the acronym is actually CTAF. I gotta look that up though. In VATSIM, our standard is we use 122.8 for pilot-to-pilot comms, and there's no ATC. All that to say that if I am going to use VATSIM, I fire up vPilot. A vPilot's a little standalone utility. This sits in the same space as, say, TeamSpeak or Discord or any other voice chat software. And vPilot is simulation aware. It sees that I'm running Microsoft Flight Simulator, and it actually hooks into the code and shows the communication settings when you're in flight and you make changes in the cockpit. Those changes reflect here and determines the voice channel that you're on. What you'll see is that there are no controllers in range. Well, that's mostly because I'm not flying. You need to be in an active flight for that to work. All right, so we've got our airport diagram. We've got our notes. We've got vPilot. One other thing I do, and this is new, Twitch. I'll go over to the Twitch stream, go to the channel, and let's mute that so that we don't have audio loops. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this, switch to non-mod, and then pop the chat out into its own window. This will allow me to monitor Twitch chat with you fine folk when I'm flying. I don't need the rest of Twitch, just the chat window. And he will do some coffee plus plus. Yay. All right. So, are we ready to actually do flight simulator stuff? I've plugged in my my HOTUS that goes into the USB port. Big surprise, right? And the rudder pedals are always plugged in. All right, so now let's go over and see what's going on with the simulator. I tend to do all the pre-flight stuff not in virtual reality because it's just easier. I can type on the keyboard without fumbling in the dark, and it's quite frankly just a little easier to say. So what we would generally do in this situation is hit world map, and you can go literally anywhere in the entire world, which is fun. And then, just to show you, here's all the aircraft you can pick from. I've spent pretty much most of my time in the Cessna because I'm familiar with it, but there's a whole bunch of planes you can fly. I really should give a few of the others a shot, including airliners and jets. Oh, and this little guy right here, he's fun. He's an ultralight I actually bought separately from a third party. As you can see, it's basically a very small aircraft, doesn't have a fuselage, it's just got a frame. Great for sightseeing, and it moves very slowly. Has basically, I think, a lawnmower engine on it. Fun stuff. But for this, we're gonna my usual aircraft is the Cessna 172 Skyhawk. The one that comes with the standard version of the simulator is the 172 Skyhawk with the Garmin 1000 glass cockpit, which is super hella cool. It's basically LCD flat screens and really, really fantastic avionics. I upgraded to the Premium Deluxe because I wanted I wanted all the aircraft first of all, but I want the classic 172 that has the Garmin. I think it's the Garmin 540 and 430 together, linked to regular old GPSs, because it's a little more old school, right? And in the real world, well, okay, I probably don't really feel like spending money on flying in the real world at this point anyway, but in the real world, the 172 with the classic avionics package would probably be closer to what I'd be able to afford. And I keep looking over the side just to see what you guys see on the stream, and it's looking pretty good. Okay. Let's see here. ATC options, you can actually give yourself your own tail number, which I have done, November 212 Romeo Hotel. And yeah, that's the Romeo Hotel is of course Red Hat because I'm shameless. I think I mentioned that the other day. And then you can give yourself other call signs. I don't bother with that. If you're flying a commercial, you can give yourself a flight number. If you're flying a commercial airliner, usually you append heavy to that. And it does show the tail number on the model because why wouldn't it? This system here is something I rarely use. the system, the aircraft will not fail on its own, but this is to practice, hey, what happens if stuff starts to fail? And the answer for most of this stuff is get the airplane back on the ground as soon as possible. I can fuel the aircraft here, or I can fuel it on the runway, and I can also give myself weight. The game assumes you have a co-pilot, because what you can do is you can hand off radio work to your co-pilot if you're using the built-in ATC. The co-pilot also help you do the checklist automatically, so I just keep her in there. And yeah, my co-pilot, you get to pick the model. Liveries, I use the default livery. That's basically just the paint job, because I don't really like the Microsoft Flight Simulator blue livery thing. That feels too much like a pop-up ad on my aircraft. All right. So anyway, so you pick your aircraft, and then the easiest thing to do is, if you know your airport code, you can just type it in. Now, my daughter made fun of me for this, but what I've done is, starting with the flight from Allentown to Florida, is I kept a physical notebook on every leg of the trip, because why not? It's very hard to have a notebook crash and lose all the data. And if I look, this is since I pivoted to the non-glass cockpit. I flew the glass cockpit variant down from Allentown to Florida. But I can see on 10 February, well, yesterday doesn't count because I crashed. On 10 February, I was last at KVQQ. So I will go, and you see it's in recent memory. I click on that, whoop, and I zoom in. Now the simulator puts you at the end of the runway with the engine running by default. I do not like to do that. I prefer to start parked at a ramp and go through the entire checklist. So we're going to put ourselves on ramp 13. So ramp 13, we're just north of runway 9, runway 27. It really depends on the direction you're flying. And you know, this is actually something that's real easy to screw up if you don't think through this and you don't look. You get into the simulator, and then ATC says taxi to this specific runway, and if you don't have a runway diagram or you don't know the airport, where am I going? You know. And the GPS on the aircraft will not, at least not in this aircraft, will not help you with the taxiing. The simulator will let you turn on a taxi ribbon, but that's not real world. All right, where do I want to go? Well, I think just for this example, we're going to say let's fly to Kissimmee, whatever. Kiss me. So if we look on Florida, Kissimmee is actually the closest airport to Walt Disney World, which is if you see our Walt Disney World Resort, is a point of interest. And in fact, if I click on Walt Disney World and hit add, you'll see that this is our flight plan, which we're doing using GPS. We're going to start at Cecil. We're going to fly past Walt Disney World Resort, and we're going to end up landing at Kissimmee on runway 24, which is fine. It's a simulator, right? So you have a couple of options. For multiplayer, what I do when I'm going to use VATSIM is I turn off and I'm in my group only. What that does is VATSIM will take all the players who are attached to the network and inject them into your session. So every aircraft you see in the air is a real pilot on the VATSIM network. The simulator will still do ground traffic, like you'll see other aircraft at gates, you'll see other aircraft occasionally taxiing around, but the only things flying are other VATSIM players. If I picked live players, then that would mix in the players who are also just playing Microsoft Flight Simulator but not on the VATSIM network. And that in a busier airport could lead to confusion, because you could have, Billy Bob playing on his own doesn't understand that you're going into the same runway via VATSIM. And I kind of like to play it, air quote, realistic. So I'll do group only when doing VATSIM. Air traffic is about, do I want live traffic based on data feed from the real world, right? So you'll get a mix. If you pick live traffic, that pulls in a fairly, I think, accurate rendition of air traffic from all over the place. And that can be kind of cool. AI is basically, no, just make some stuff up for me. My default, again, with VATSIM is off because I don't want anything other than the planes that people on VATSIM are flying. And you might think, well, that sounds lonely. Actually, gotta be honest. If you listen to my first video and you hear all the chatter on ATC, there were a fair number of people on last night. And it really does add to the experience. Weather and time, you can go live or you can do a preset where you can change the time. And what's fun is if you, let's say you want to fly using whatever the weather is, but you don't want to fly at night because that's harder. You can just time shift. You can have live weather but change the time. I prefer, because I'm hardcore, it killed me last night, I prefer usually to do everything live, but I have done things where my most common thing I did on the trip down from Allentown was, you work, have dinner with the family. Sharon and I would watch an episode of Breaking Bad because she had never seen it. And then by the time I'm ready to fly that day, it's 7:30, 8 o'clock, the sun's down. So I would sometimes time shift 12 hours and pretend I was starting at 7:30 a.m. It was fine. And that I didn't use VATSIM for that, so it was all just the simulated world. I didn't feel guilty about it. Because a thunderstorm in the day is almost as bad as a thunderstorm at night. Although at night you just see less because it's dark. Oh, the night flying is kind of fun because of all the lights on the ground. It's very pretty. Very pretty. Anyway. Whew, this is the part where I'm almost ready to go. Now, this flight plan will be programmed into the Garmin once I'm in the simulator. So at this point, I would hit fly. What am I, about 20 minutes in and I finally hit the damn fly button? All right. And again, I'm still in flat mode right now. So while that's loading, what I generally do is I take my keyboard, push it forward, put the flight controls on the keyboard tray right in front of me. Make sure that I can reach the rudder pedals with my feet. See, the pedals need to be over to the left a bit. That's much better. Yeah, they were annoying me last night. There we go. And it's funny because I'm sitting in my office chair, and when I push on the rudder pedals, because the chair has wheels, I sometimes roll back. So I should probably sit on my wife's old sewing chair there. That doesn't have wheels on the bottom. Hey, Ajax cat. Me wow. All right. Yeah, what the heck was that? I think, Kleinster's following. I don't even know who that is. Well, hi, Kleinster. Nice to meet you. Got to get used to the audio cues. Okay. Oof, this is not looking great for visual flight rules. Okay, so here I am. This is the point where I would turn on VR. And for those of you who haven't been watching from the beginning, the point of today is not necessarily to even do much flying. I just wanted to give everyone kind of a tour of what things looked like. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go back to OBS and I'm going to flip to Live Scene VR, which now you probably won't see anything because I'm not capturing the virtual reality yet. Actually, no, let me do that. I'm going to show you what VR looks like spooling up. It's like spooling up the hyperdrive in Battlestar Galactica. So I hit Control-Tab inside of Flight Simulator. That starts a bunch of stuff in motion. Hard drive is spinning furiously. This is what you see on the desktop in Steam VR because it's projecting into the left eye and into the right eye. Over on the side there is the Steam VR pop-up, which shows the different components you need for virtual reality. And there's 5 icons, but we only care about 3 of them when we're flight simulating. Because I don't use the VR hand grips. I use my regular controller stuff. You got the headset, and then mounted in the corners of my office are lighthouses. And those are these little guys on the right, the base stations. And they have little gyroscopes inside of them that have to spool up. And they talk via USB, and the lights are blinking. And shortly, yeah, they should be live shot. There goes one, there goes the other. And now that I've got the lighthouse active, you'll see when I move the headset around, just in my hand, oh, the vision inside, it changes. Now, this is where, since I got the VR going, I will switch to Live Scene VR, which, oh my God, that looks stupid. Now, I had this working yesterday. It shouldn't look like that. And I fought with this yesterday. It kind of resets itself, I think. So let's see here. Let's look at the properties of OpenVR Capture. Because you guys should not be seeing that in a circle. It should be... Let me just play with a couple of settings here. Noob. Let's see here, properties. We want to go valve index 16:9. There we go. So this is funny. I'm going to say this almost feels like a bug in OBS. I had it preset to valve index 16:9 and it came in a circular form. And all I did was I flipped it to no, I flipped it to just regular I, and then back to the valve index, and it fixed it. So I guess from a procedural standpoint, that's what I'm probably going to have to do every time. Oh, the horror. All right, so let's minimize OBS. All right, and then, yeah, you guys can't see what I'm doing now, but I have to make sure I click the simulator window, and then I can put the headset on. And, yeah. This is not the way I'm going to fly the aircraft. I have to basically, this is very common in a lot of VR games where you have to align the view. And now we should see the cockpit. All right. So all that stuff I set up, I've got a button on my joystick that I press, and then I should see multiple windows appear. Yay! These are all the windows I set up on my desktop, including the Twitch chat. And let me go and minimize that inside of that window. So what I can do is I can flip and turn the overlays off and on so that I can monitor chat, so that I can check my instructions, so I can check my radio situation. And then I'm gonna verify my audio settings for vPilot. Come on. Oh, and this is a little pissy sometimes, so I'm gonna take the headset back off. Okay, so digital audio, video, okay, high definition audio, okay, those settings do look good. Because I had some issues with vPilot last night where I had to flip the audio setting. This is very much a situation where it always seems like you have to turn things back off and back on again. All right, so somebody say something in chat so that we can do an ops check on that. Hello? Hi. All right. Excellent. All right. So at this point, this is where I would go through my regular checklist. But you know what? You guys have been patient. We're just going to hit this button on the joystick, which starts the aircraft immediately. And you know that's basically cheating, right? Let's see. So for Unicom, I need to tune to 122.8. So we're going to do that on COM 1. If we look on the radio, and look, I can zoom in. We're at 124.8, so we want to change that to 122.8. And again, this being old is silly because it's hard to 122.8. And then I click on this little guy and the channel will be live. So what I'll do is I'll bring up here. You can see COM 1 is 122.8. And I'm just going to hit a broadcast. Oh, actually, no. We don't even have Unicom on this sucker. Huh, so it's not letting me transmit. That's fun. All right, well, oh, I need to connect. That's the problem. Okay, yeah, I wasn't connected to the flight sim network. Yikes. All right, now I'm on 122.8. And if there's other pilots who are using Unicom, I should hear them. Now let's just take a quick little look and see if there's anybody close by. And are we on this map? Yeah. I think if I use this button, I can right-click and reload. And I can use the mouse over here. Come on. Oh, man, straining my neck. We should actually see us on this map eventually once we update it in the simulator. We'll appear up here somewhere, but we're not on there yet. It takes a few moments to attach to the network and appear on the map, but we good. All right, so let's see. What am I going to say? I'm going to taxi. Cecil traffic, Cessna 212 Romeo Hotel, taxiing to runway 9 for VFR departure 2500. All right. I don't even know if I said that right, but what the heck. So we're gonna taxi over to runway 9. Again, we're in an uncontrolled airport right now. Now runway 9 means we're going to fly. We're going to take off to the east, so we want to taxi west. Oh my God, no! I sometimes like hit the wrong rudder pedals. Okay, why do I feel like I'm going the wrong way on this runway? So I start it there. I need to go south to the runways. Am I going north to the runways? Yeah, I went north. Oh boy. Maybe you guys want to fly with a different pilot who actually knows where he's going. Just throwing that out there. There we go. Yeah. Let's not hit that bus. I am a vehicle. I'm a very slow vehicle. Oh, you gotta be kidding me. Are you kidding? Oh boy. Yeah, now I'm kind of hoping in a real airport we wouldn't have situations like this, but you know. You come for the larfs. All right, so I'm heading to the south. Yeah, and we can see those blue markers over there. That's the taxiway to the actual runway. And if I would use the proper feet to turn, we'd be in much better shape. Already off to a fine start, my friends. Now, it is very foggy. If I were flying for real as a VFR pilot, this would probably be, I probably would not have enough visibility where I'd be allowed to take off. I could do an instrument flight, but to do that you need to file a specific flight plan, which I have not done. And you need to follow different procedures. Again, it's a good thing this is just a simulator and that this isn't a real flight. I'm just faking it to show you guys how things work. So what we'll do is we'll reward us with a takeoff, and then I'll probably stop. Now, normally in a controlled airport situation, I'd have to stop here, and I can't pass beyond this without getting some clearance from. Oh no, this is still a taxiway. Never mind. Durr. Not the actual runway. Yeah, because this is This is a weird runway setup. I think there's like a short runway and a long runway, but this is the official runway up here. All right. So this little guy right here, this is like the aircraft equivalent of a stop sign. I'll go to here so you can see what it looks like. You see I've got the two solid lines and the dashed lines are on this side. That means I have to stop here until I have clearance to go. Now again, because we're uncontrolled, that's not going to be an issue, but with the, oh, it's just a little misty. I think once we're up we'll be okay. I'm just looking around to make sure I don't see anything visual. We got the windsock over there. Looks like the wind's pretty calm. So I'll just call out on Unicom again. Cecil traffic, Cessna 212, Romeo November, taking off runway 9, straight departure. And that just basically means I'm going to fly right out of the pattern. Normally I would do a run up here for maximum, you know, to make sure everything's working okay with the magnetos and stuff, but again, it's a simulator. I know it's not going to fail, and just for the sake of getting in the air, we're cheating. For future flights, we'll take that a lot more seriously. Ah, and I used the wrong foot again, because I'm terrible. All right, now the rudder pedals are new. This is where we wonder if Mark can stay in the middle of the runway for the takeoff. I'm going to bet probably not. So let me line myself up at the center, and we will apply full throttle. We're going to watch, and we lift off at about 55 to 60 knots. We do our rotation, which is when I just gently pull the nose up to start becoming an airplane. And right about now, okay, and I only crabbed on the runway a little bit, but hey, look, I'm flying. Woohoo! This is one of the more dangerous parts of the flight because I'm not very high off the ground. The idea is to get enough altitude so that I can be safe to do stupid things. I'm flying straight out, which means that I continue on the runway heading for a little bit until, you know, I take up my regular flight. Oh, and I didn't set the navigation equipment properly, so it's trying to use the V-lock. It's not using the GPS, but that's a simple button once I'm happy with how I'm doing. All right, let me fix that. So I got to pick my navigation source. That's going to be GPS. Now, had I done the proper checklist, we would have caught that. I'm going to turn on the autopilot to even things out. And that should immediately kind of go to a straight and level mode. Actually, we'll engage altitude holds, which will hold me at 500 feet. Oh, it's looking a little scary. I'm going to set my desired altitude to be, we'll go to 2500. We'll turn vertical speed mode on, and then tell it to climb the aircraft at 500 feet per minute. Now what the autopilot will do is it'll use that trim wheel. You see, it's actually, the plane is turning that wheel to make the aircraft climb at 500 feet per minute, which is this vertical speed indicator right here, which is pretty cool. And then we're going to use this little bug here. Actually, no, we're going to just turn on nav mode on the autopilot. Click. And now the aircraft is flying itself, which is probably the safest situation we could be in. The autopilot's bringing the plane up to 2,500 feet, and now it's bringing us to our course on our GPS. Let's see what that looks like. So we can see on the GPS our course is this white line. The autopilot will fly the aircraft to intercept that to start flying us. And I can bring up this VFR map as well, which shows us which shows us where we are, kind of various markers and stuff, and shows our course. These circles are various airspaces, controlled airspace for airports. There are rules about altitudes and stuff among them. Oh wow, yeah, it's a little. We got a little clouds. Got some clouds there. Cloud cover. This should be very pretty. Yeah. Can't really see the ground too well. But yeah, what we've got is we're 109, if we look in the upper right of the GPS, we're 109 nautical miles from Disney World, and it figures we'll be there in about an hour, which we're not going to do. Oh yeah. Yeah, so we would go to Disney and then Kimesi. Which I'm probably saying that wrong. All right. And that, my friends, is how we go from my empty desktop to flying. That's pretty much, that's pretty much the experience. And then, we fly, man. I will probably over time try different aircraft. My sister has asked me to take pictures of the monuments over DC. I'm probably going to fire up the ultralight for that because the view will be really good. But I eventually have to get this aircraft back to Pennsylvania. So what I'm thinking is I'll do a cross-country trip. I came down on the East Coast. What I'll probably do is fly on the west side of Florida and then up, through the Appalachian Mountains, maybe through West Virginia, up to western Pennsylvania, and then fly back east, just to get a different view, because the coastal flight, it was very flat. I actually am kind of looking forward to maybe flying through some mountainous areas. I think that could be kind of cool. All right, we can see we're at 2,300 feet. This gauge right here, if you're not a pilot, this gauge right here that I'm pointing out is our vertical speed, which is a little bit under 500 feet per minute. And as we approach 2,500, the autopilot will trim us out and reduce that to hold us at 0. The autopilot doesn't control the throttle. That's all me. This is our airspeed right here. We want to be careful we don't go below 50 or else we'll stall. I had pulled back on the throttle a bit, and because the autopilot was still trying to climb us, it was bleeding speed. I've increased the throttle a little bit. Our cruising speed is around 120, maximum cruise speed. Yeah, the clouds look a little jaggy in the headset, but actually pretty good. I'm gonna be curious what they look like on the video. I feel like squirrel, completely distracted. All right, so we're at 2,500. We can see the autopilot is in altitude. It's controlling our altitude, and the goal is to keep us at 2,500 feet, and it is navigating us, which means it's going to the next point on the GPS. For autopilot, we can also do headings. We got this compass right here that shows the direction we're flying. Right now we are flying south-southwest. What if I wanted to head west a bit? Well, I can turn this knob to move this bug, and if I put the autopilot in heading mode, or what they call roll mode, and I press that button, well, now the autopilot will turn the aircraft to be on the heading of that bug. Now, I could just use the control yoke and fly it the old-fashioned way, as God intended, but I'm cheating a little bit by using the autopilot. And yeah, the scenery is fantastic. The scenery is all done using Bing map data. And yes, my house is there. I have flown to where I can see my house from here. All right, let's see, what time is it? We actually have a real-world clock in here. It is 13:51 Universal Time, 8:51 Eastern Time, which means I actually have to go to work. So what I'm going to do, I hate to do this, I'm going to hit Escape, and I'm going to go back to the main menu. We still have VR mode on, just to end the flight. Oh boy. All right, so what I generally do when I'm done flying, let's pretend I land it. I drop out of VR mode, go back to flat mode. Uh, this actually, let's see, where the heck is this? Profile. My profile shows what I've been doing. I've flown 37 hours. Um, you know, and it has some interesting statistics about what you've done. Yeah, total distance flown in meters, 6,600,000 meters. That's a little crazy. Oh wait, you can't see this because I'm in the wrong mode. Let me go to OBS. Here we go. Live scene desktop. There we go. My apologies. Yeah, I forgot I was still capturing the headset, which is on. So, from the main menu, I was just showing you my profile. Total time spent. My wife would say, "You've flown more than that." But the logbook shows every flight, takeoffs, landings, whatnot that you've done. And it's all in Greenwich Mean Time. Yeah, because I didn't actually end the flight properly. It doesn't show takeoffs or landings because I just quit. But what can you do? And as you can see, I use the Skyhawk a lot. And there's the G1000, which is the Skyhawk with the glass cockpit. And let's see, when I first was flying the game, they teach you in the 152. But I found the 172 I like better. Okay. So what I do now is, because I'm done with the VR, I will go to Steam. Where's Steam VR? Yeah, so much stuff running. And I'll just shut the VR off. And that'll spool down the lighthouses, shut off the headset, and basically, puts the VR to sleep. Pops my audio back to my external speakers, and then quit the desktop. Yes, I want to quit. I don't want to quit, but I should quit. Yeah, that's always the case, right? All right. So, thanks for joining me today. I now have to go make computers work for various people. That's how I do flight simming. I'm not going to do this every time, walking you through the spool up. Most of the time when I start the stream, I'll probably be in the aircraft. Although maybe I'll start with the chart. I don't know. But I figured it would be cool for you guys to see what it looked like. But anyway, thanks for joining me. Thanks for the follow. And see you all soon.